Are you trying to get approved for high credit limits 10, 15, and even 25,000? Well, in this video, I want to talk about 5 tips on how we can get high credit limits. Let's get into it. So, y'all, we've been talking a lot about how we can increase our credit score fast so that we can get approved for the credit cards. Well, in one of those videos, I had got a comment stating, well, nobody ever talks about how to get approved for high credit card limits. And so I thought, why don't I create a video about it? All YouTubers talk about the score or just say your profile has to be together. Part of the profile is the income. Nobody talks about that. How much income does one need to earn those large amounts like 15K and up? And so I thought that was a great question. Now, on the one hand, when we take a look at our credit profile is made up of our payment history, credit utilization, length of credit, new credit, and credit mix. And within our credit profile, our income isn't in that. Now, our income does come into play when we apply for a credit card, but our overall credit profile is not necessarily based off of our income. So I want to get into the 5 tips on how we can get those high credit limits. But let me know in the comments, what do you consider a high credit limit? Now, while these tips are not in any order, I do think that this is very important because there are banks and credit unions that are known for high credit limits. So we want to make sure that we're doing our research so that we can kind of see. So some of those credit unions and banks are going to be Navy Federal, American Express, Chase Bank, US Bank, and Citi. But you'll have to let me know in the comments which banks or credit unions were not on the list that you feel like have high credit limits. Now, when I take a look at my 14 credit cards, one of my highest limit credit cards is going to be my Navy Federal More Rewards card. When I had applied for that credit card, I had got approved for 25K. And y'all, when I had got my first credit card, and that was going to be a Citibank card, because now it's the Citi Thank You Rewards card. But when I first got it, it was a different card and they didn't change the name probably about 2 times. But when I first got that credit card, that was my first credit card. I had got approved for 13.5. And so you'll really have to take a look and see which bank or credit union do you think that have high credit limits. But then also within us getting approved for the credit cards, are you doing credit line increases? So let's say with Navy Federal, after 3 months, you can do a credit line increase and you can possibly get up to an 8K increase. With American Express, you can do a credit line increase every 6 months. And a friend of mine recently told me that with Chase Bank, if you have the checking account and savings account, she feels like you can get approved for higher credit limits. Because y'all, when I got the Chase Sapphire Preferred card, they only had approved me for $5,000 and they had actually took that from another credit card. And so in my opinion, I feel like Chase Bank has lower credit limits, but I don't have a checking and a savings with them. So that's why I say you have to take a look and figure out the banks and credit unions for yourself. Now, the second one, in my opinion, is going to be avoid too many inquiries. Because I can say for myself, when I have a lot of inquiries and I'm applying for a lot of credit cards back to back, I just feel like I get approved for low limits. And so let's say last year I had applied for 2 credit cards in one day, pretty much like 2 minutes apart. And y'all, they had only approved me for the Hilton Honor Surpass for $4,100, and then for my Citi American Airlines Platinum card, they had approved me for like $4,000. And so I was just like, dang, I only got approved for $4,000. But on the same hand, my strategy was to get approved so I can get the points. And so I really wasn't chasing high credit limits. And so that's why I say it's important to understand which strategy are we going for. Are we just trying to get approved so that we can get the points? Or are we trying to get approval so that we can get high limits? When I had applied for the Chase Sapphire Preferred card, I made sure to garden a little bit during that time. And I wasn't applying for a lot of credit cards. They got the 5 and 24. And so I wanted to make sure that I didn't have a lot of inquiries, because I believe at that time I had 5. And also I wanted to make sure that my credit score was higher, because I wanted to make sure that I got approved too. And so that's the thing where our credit score is very important. And so that takes me into number 3. So we have to have a strong credit score. So if you want higher limits, you really want to aim for a 700 or higher, because like I was saying, when I had applied for the Chase Sapphire Preferred card, I don't even think my credit score, it might have been right at 700. And so I was hearing that you really wanted to have a higher credit score. So I wanted to make sure that my credit score was a 700 and higher. But I think if we are trying to get the high credit limits, then of course our score is going to matter, because really all our credit score is showing the banks and the creditors is that we are reliable and that we can pay back the debt that we have. The 4th thing is going to be low debt to income ratio. And I think this is very important. And in my opinion, I think this is the number 1 most important piece, because if we have high utilization or high debt to income ratio, then I feel like we have a lower probability of getting approved, and then we have a lower probability of getting approved for high limits. Because let's say if we have over 50% credit card utilization, most of the time creditors are not going to want to give, high limits. And so one, we want to make sure, how can we pay down debt before we apply for those credit cards. Utilization is going to be 30% or less, but per experience, they're going to state if we want to be high achievers, and especially if we want to get those high limits, it's best to have 7% or less of utilization. So it's just very important to take a look at our credit utilization before we are applying for credit cards. And last but not least, when it comes to income, is it going to be high income or stable income? And in my opinion, I think it's going to be stable income. If you're making high income, but then you have a lot of debt, then they're still not going to want to approve you for high credit limit. So when I think about all of my credit cards, my highest credit limit is going to be my Navy Federal More Rewards card. But then it got me to thinking, with the American Express Gold card, there's no spending limit, and you can use the spending limit tool to see how much you can be approved for. And so, I'll check it from time to time. But when I first got the American Express Gold card, y'all, I think I was only approved for like 10,000. And then every so often I'll check it. Well, the last time I did it several months ago, maybe even last year, it was 40,000. So I wanted to check this time what would be my spending limit. And I tried 45,000 because I was like, well, since the last time I had tried 40,000, let me try 45. So I tried 45,000, said I was approved. But then at the bottom, it says that you can update your income. And I said, well, let me see what I said my income was. And so you can see here that I have not updated my income since January of 2024. Because see, most of the time, even for my American Express Gold card, when I was using that card, I'm really only using like up to 2, maybe even 3,000, probably not even that much a month. But then on the same hand, if I was to spend 45,000, would I be able to pay it off the next month? And so that's why, in my opinion, taking a look at our credit utilization is going to be the most important piece, because if we can't pay it back, then, yes, it's great to say that we are approved for the high limits. And so for me, yes, I do like to be approved for the high limits, but then on the same hand, most of the time I'm going to be just trying to get approved for the credit card so that I can do the credit card journey, so I can get the points and the cash back and things like that. So overall, in my opinion, while I do think that when we are applying for credit cards, our income is important, I really think that the other aspects of our credit score, especially our credit utilization and our inquiries, only if we are trying to apply for high credit limits. Because I feel like if we are applying for a lot of credits, and that's why I was saying, in my opinion, when I'm applying for a lot of credit back to back, then it seems like I get approved for lower limits. But really, it's just what is your reasoning for applying for the card? Now, if I'm just trying to apply to get the points, I don't know that it really matters. But then I'll tell y'all this too, because when I had applied for my first credit card and it was that City card, y'all, I probably was only making probably what, $17 or something like that, and I had got approved for 13.5. But then also when I had two Bank of America credit cards, and one of them was approved for like 13.5 and the other one was approved for 15,000. I think I probably was only making probably like 40,000 at that time. And while strategy does matter and your income does matter, in my opinion, it doesn't, because when I'm applying for credit cards, I don't know that I ever worry about what my income is. I never worried about what my income is, even when I was making less than 40,000 or $14 or $17 or whatever, I was making. Really, I just applied for credit cards. And so I also think what's going on in that time, because let's say in 2020, when they didn't know what was going on, they was taking credit back. And even here recently, they've been cutting credit cards and slashing limits and stuff like that. And so you really have to look at the whole picture, And so I think that if we can make sure that our profile is good, then I just like to try things. Please like, subscribe, share with a friend, and turn your notification bell on so you'll be notified when new content drops. I thank you so much for watching. Until next time, check out my 2025 digital budget planner. I posted it on my Etsy shop. You can go into the description and click on the link. In the budget, you have goal setting, you have a monthly budget, a debt repayment, you have a savings tracker. So check out the 2025 digital budget planner on my Etsy shop. It's not a game.